Hi, my name is Jake Hansen, and today I'm going to be talking to you about one of the most important events the history of our Earth has ever seen and experienced. I'll be discussing an event so large that roughly 95% of all of the life on Earth was wiped out and vanished completely. Now, how is that even possible? Well, the answer is still up for debate, and scientists are constantly trying to figure out the specific reasoning. There's multiple theories that I'll get into and discuss shortly, but first, let me set the stage for you. So let's go back roughly 299 million years ago, right at the beginning of the Permian period. Now, if you can picture massive bodies of water and a vast area of land surrounding Earth's surface, you pretty much got it. But during the beginning of the Permian period, most of the crustal plates were connected to form a supercontinent called Pangaea. Now, climate was extremely varied during this period and not like how it is today. Earlier on in the period, the Earth was an ice age, where glacial regions filled the oceans and landforms. Now, as this period progressed, however, glacial features began to melt and the globe gradually warmed, having very fluctuated wet and dry seasons. Now, along with hot and cold seasons as well, the drastic climate shift could be because of smaller continental shifting of Pangaea. And as continents collided and receded from each other, a drastic change in climate is strongly influenced in local and regional terrestrial climates. Now, towards the end of this Permian period, climates became hot and fairly dry, and tropical regions turned into deserts even. And as the Permian period went on, and as the climate began to warm, sustainable life was able to survive, reproduce, and even evolve all on Earth, especially with marine life. It is possible that the ocean and marine life in Permian period may have been more diverse than that of today's modern times. This gradual warming during that time caused great evolutionary expansion between these marine animals, as well as many terrestrial faunas on land that had to survive and withstand the earlier colder times. The most predominant and evolved life was in the oceanic regions because of the consistency in climate fluctuations. But however, the evolution of many land species were very closely related to the evolution of terrestrial plants because that was their primary food source. Um, for land animals especially. According to the fossil plant records, early Permian early Permian period fossil records contain many ferns or seeds, and even mosses and scale trees, which would have adapted in more swampy tropical areas. And towards the middle of the Permian area or the Permian period, fossil records have found even conifer type plants or proto-angiosperms, which are flowering plants basically, early flowering plants or early stages of flowers. And with this rapid expansion and the evolution of plant life, this explains that the rapid expansion of insects during this time was extremely great as well. And lastly, one of the most significant species of life that evolved during this period, um, several reptile relatives even descended from larger amphibians which first appeared during the early Permian period stages. Um, these species were called stem reptiles and basically are thought to be the basis of where most reptiles came from or evolved from. And these reptiles even eventually branched off and some evolved to which are known as mammals today. Now, with such interesting and ever changing climate and during the peak of the evolution of life, basically, obviously not all things go perfectly to plan. Approximately 252 million years ago, the Earth experienced the largest and most significant mass extinction to ever take place. Now, this mass extinction was so big and so large that 95% of the entire marine life was knocked out completely and became extinct, and approximately 70% of all other terrestrial life on land was wiped out. Now, this consists of over half of all of the families of life that exist or existed, including almost all brachiopods and corals. Now, the greatest extinction occurred into shallow, warm water marine life species, unfortunately, and specifically invertebrates. The fauna diversity had decreased more than any other previous mass extinction before as well. It's safe to say that this was the largest mass extinction that the world has ever seen. Scientists today are still unsure in the exact timing of this extinction, but many scientists and geologists believe that the mass extinction occurred over the course of a 15 million year span, having numerous smaller extinction events occurring throughout that period. But others believe that the Permian extinction occurred much quicker over time, lasting maybe over a period of about 200,000 years, and maybe the primary extinction portion only took place uh, between a 20,000 year period and towards the end of the Permian era, obviously. But the real question is not exactly how long the extinction occurred, but rather, how did this extinction happen? So, like I said before, there are a number of different theories as to how the Great Permian extinction occurred. The first theory, brought up by scientists, explains how the vast temperature changes could have played a major factor in this extinction. Now, this theory goes against every single event theory because it focuses on how the varying temperature changes would have greatly affected biological and physical nutrient cycles over a long period of time. Now, based on these oxygen and isotype studies, along with the calcium and magnesium ratios in Permian fossil records recorded, they found that in shallow water regions, water temperature estimates could have reached up to 77 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit, which is extremely warm for low temperature or any oceanic water temperature. Now, because of these high temperatures, this could have been a main reason for the cause of extinction of marine lives in these shallow water areas. Um, the next theory has to do with the alteration of the carbon cycle and relating the carbon 12 and carbon 13 atoms. Now, when scientists went back to look at this, they noticed huge changes between the carbon cycle occurring approximately 500,000 to 1 million years before the end of the Permian period. So, right near the end, right when the extinction occurred, is when they found these massive carbon cycle changes. Now, these significant changes seem to be specific to the extinction, and here's why scientists believe that this was the cause. Unusual high amounts of carbon-12 found in the Permian sediments basically result in low levels of dissolved oxygen in the ocean regions, which is clearly terrible for any living animal or living species in the ocean. These high levels could have prolonged the eruption of the Siberian flood basalts, which also increased the carbon dioxide concentrations in the atmosphere immensely. But this increase in CO2, along with the volcanic ash restricting large amounts of sunlight to get through the clouds and to get through the atmosphere, that could have been a major cause for plant or fauna extinction in oceanic life in shallow regions, along with on land as well. But the most recent theory came about just recently in 2014 when research questioned if the possibility that rapid archaea blooming could be the cause of this mass extinction. So, archaea blooming, or in other terms, methanosarcina, has the ability to create and produce methane, which could lead to a rise in the ocean and atmospheric temperatures, along with the acidification, um, and it would also cause great fluctuations in carbon cycle changes. So geologists believe that the amount of carbon found in these shallow water ocean sediments recently were way too great to have been caused by just the Siberian flood basalts. But very recently, scientists found a large deposit of nickel in China, which relates to the methanosarcina. Um, they believe that these large amounts of nickel could relate to the amounts of methane, and that the amounts of methane that were released from volcanoes would have played a major factor in the damage of this Earth's atmosphere. Now, there's numerous other theories that are out there, but these are the three most significant theories and most predominant theories. And after looking at just these three, it's clear to see that the history of our Earth has still a ton of unanswered questions. We're really not sure what time everything happened. We're not exactly precise on how long everything took to happen. And we may also not be sure on how something happened exactly. But with research advancing and we are slowly able to accurately piece together the origin of our Earth, one thing we do know for sure: the permanent extinction is the greatest mass extinction event to ever occur on Earth. And we may not be here today if it wasn't for it. So, thank you.